All right, so let's get started. I'm going to kind of walk you through the navigation within Planify. So just as a quick look here, hopefully it looks familiar to you, and that would be because we took and tried to make it look like a spreadsheet and act like a spreadsheet as well. So the columns you're seeing across here, all right, and if I look down here, I actually have the ability to move over here just like you do in a spreadsheet. And you notice there's a line here. Well, that's because I have it. All of these columns over here, what I've done is I've actually gone to pin them to the left. So when I log in, each user will have their own preferences, if you will. So they can come in here and just say, these are ones I want to have always available, and you can adjust to change them. You can, maneuver and change where the positions are in each one of these, and you could also, again, pan over to the rest of the information that's over here on the right, which are user-defined fields and estimated start and finish of the actual work order. How many hours remaining. There's a lot of data in here, some of which you don't need to see all the time, some of it you do want to see all the time. So whatever you choose over here, understand that all the rest of the data will be over on the right, unless of course I do want to hide things. So you could choose your own columns. Which ones do I want to hide and show? You can also move them around here too as well, as far as the location or the preferences, again, that way too as well. And of course, all of these have search criteria in here. So let's do that for a second here. So if I just typed in customer, okay, it's going to bring up customer. If I just type in a 1, it'll show you the customers that have 1. All right, so you could actually use this, just again, you're very familiar with this, I'm sure, but you can do that. Some areas may have some other characteristics, like for instance here, oh, by the way, I just did this, it resorted that column that way, and so I'm going to go ahead and just clear that sort and go back to what the original one too as well. All right, continuing on here, so when I do a search here or a filter here, I might have options. So depending on the column that I'm choosing here, I might have options like these, so that I might be able to hone into specific things about that. Of course, all of my list of work orders in this case are here. You can sort them any way you want to. Interesting things about this is that, of course, when I am scheduling things, I can actually move things like this, priority up and down, all right? So some of those characteristics are in here too as well. If I click on this work order and let's say I want to freeze that, there is a thing called a freeze work order over here, all right? So I could freeze it, and what that does is it stops it from being scheduled, all right? So right now, that is going to stay where it is in the schedule, and it will not alter that. So if you wanted to freeze a day or a week of your schedule, understanding that the freeze will come undone if we go beyond the point where it can't really schedule it at that point. All right. So I'm going to go and undo what I just did there and leave that alone. Okay. And of course now I've got my priorities here all kind of skewed, if you will, and I'm just going to remove this here. Going to clear my sort, and of course this goes back to where we were. So you kind of get a feel for how to navigate in here. Now let's talk about the menus up above. First of all, I think you know that if I click on this, it expands the menu to a larger portion, but it also takes up real estate as well, so you can actually leave that. Everything you can do here is still available at this limited menu area. All right, so when I do click or add certain characteristics, when I click on this one, you'll notice certain things become available, not available. All right, pretty self-explanatory that way. All right, so the menus that we have available, if I go to the shop floor side of things, I've got the templates. If I click on templates, and I'm going to discard that. That'll become more evident later on when I describe that. These are all your recurring work or recurring process type products that we might do. So you might have a template that is a recurring product, or it might be that we want to generate a new work order from a standard process steps and then go in and edit the work order for the amount of time it takes. So those are your template characteristics. The work orders are the defined work orders that, of course, you notice that at the beginning I was over in the scheduling side of things. There's a difference. This work order area is meant to be separated so that people can actually update data without, and actually you should understand, anything I update here is live. We actually are updating and changing data. It becomes active. If I'm in the scheduling side of things, that is not true. All the things we do in scheduling are done in the scheduling area until I commit it. All right, so this is all the committed work orders. Operations area is the place that we use for, and I'm just going to use this release status here. This is where we have another menu option, but if you click on any one of these steps here, and if it, in the assignees, my work assigned is over here, so if I logged in as whoever I am, the work that's been assigned to me will only show up. But I can also click on here and open work log, and this is the option for doing labor entry, or what we call it work log information, right? So, and depending on whether or not you want it to be a clock in and clock out process, that's where I start with here. Or I can use this thing called manual entry. So if I've got the end of the day, I want to get all my labor, if you will, against to be added in here, you can do one at a time for each one of these two as well. All right, so that is your menu for the shop floor. The production planning side of things is now I've got scheduling. I click on scheduling. Looks very familiar from the work orders perspective, but now I have other options in here, including the fact that I've got some run on pretend, run on active, and I'll go through that in another session so that we can get to understand what those means and what they do. So when I do run the schedule here, that's going to be here too. Now we also have a capacity view. All right, so the capacity view is a graphical representation of that same schedule that we just saw in the spreadsheet type of view. All right, so if I'm looking at the group view, first thing you want to do maybe is hit this area here, and you can actually then take a look at, for instance, within a grouping area, like for instance a group of welders, a group of laser machines, galvanizing. Galvanizing is an outside operation, but in this case CNC machines, you see all the work that's been set up for that. So you could hit a plus sign to get in closer to view. So it's kind of like, if you will, a capacity engine, right, to show you the work that's all being scheduled. And if I hover over here, you see that it's got all the detail behind each one of these operations. And there's other resource, you can have resource definitions as well, or resource viewing criteria. So if I click on that too, here. Okay, so, and then also by work order. So the last one here too, again, if I were to click on that too as well, it's just going to refinish that. All right, there's your work orders, and of course, then if you wanted to see how they flow. So this is the graphical representation of the capacity utilization. All right, so, and then when I get over to the execute, and I'll go through another session on that too as well. But if I go to execute, there's a place for you to review all the transactions that are coming from the shop floor, so that you can actually report it off of that or change it if you need to, because sometimes folks get it wrong on the floor. Nobody's fault, just happens. All right, so let's talk about that. So, okay, one of the things I got as I was going through, some of these screens, you'll notice that there is always an export, and the export is, in each screen would export the data in it. And understand that when you export it out, you also can use that to update data. Anything that gets pushed out, and I'll just kind of quickly show you that. So if I took this one right here and I exported it right now, you notice it'll bring it up over here. You can actually visualize that in an Excel format, and you see I've got that right here. So it actually has, in that case, because I'm in the scheduling side, and this is all of my work orders, and all the data that's supporting them as well, and that's the work order, that's the header information, and then the operational detail as well. All right, so again, we'll go through that in another session as to the details that are oriented with that. So we'll close that one up. All right, so that should get you going when it comes to navigating within Planify. Hopefully it looks familiar, feels familiar, and is easy to use. Talk to you soon.